Salems Lot UK presents A Return to the Lot. Ben and Mark just arriving into Ferndale and see neon lights on the side of the road up ahead. A vacancies sign flashing up in bright red. Ben pulls up alongside. Also Tuki's bar and grill is illuminated on another sign.
Here on the left looks promising. But maybe worth hiding the Jeep out of sight.
The place looks like an old 60s American diner.
At least we can get some food too,
States Mark. They get out of the Jeep and walk around to the front. Open the front door. Greeted by a middle-aged man.
Hi, I'm Tookie. How can I help you boys?
Looking for a room for a few nights if possible. And do you still have food available?
The kitchen staff have just closed the kitchen down, but I'm sure I could sort something out for you lads. Also our guest room have en suites so you can get cleaned up. Looks like you've been playing in a fire pit.
Tookie laughs.
Something like that,
says Ben. Mark just holds his head down.
Right lads. Here is the key to room 2. Upstairs on the left. Now go and get cleaned up and I'll throw something on the grill. Looks like you need a good meal.
Ben takes the key and they head up the stairs. 30 minutes later Mark and Ben come back down the stairs and head into the bar area.
Grab a seat by the window, boys. Food will be out in a minute.
Mark looks at Ben.
Rather we didn't sit by the window.
Can we sit here?
Says Ben. Pointing to a table in the corner.
Suit yourself,
says Tookie. Ben and Mark take a seat in the corner.
Would you like a drink?
Shouts Tookie.
2 club sodas would be great, thanks,
says Ben. Mark just looks up with a little smile.
Here you go lads, 2 club sodas. And I'll grab your food.
Tookie walks off into the kitchen area. 5 minutes later Tookie shows up with 2 plates.
It's nothing special, but it will fill your bellies up.
Tookie drops 2 plates on the table. Fries, sausage, peas, egg, onion rings and chicken drumsticks.
Whatever you don't like, just leave. Enjoy lads.
Mark dived straight in like he hadn't eaten for a month.
Mark, slow down and try to act normal. Last thing we need is attention.
After finishing the meal they thank Tookie. And head up into the room. The stairs creaked underfoot as they ascended to room 2. The room was modest but clean, with twin beds covered in faded floral quilts and a small window that looked out over the back alley. Ben tossed his duffel bag onto one bed and sat down, untying his boots. Mark wandered over to the window, peering out into the darkness.
Think we'll be safe here?
Mark asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty as he removed his crucifix from his neck and hung it on the handle of the window.
Ben shrugged. It's as good a place as any. We need rest, and Tookie seems alright. Now get some rest.
The first light of dawn crept across the motel room like a thief, dim and pale through the curtains. Mark stirred in bed, half asleep, the edge of a dream still clinging to him. A sound. Scraping. Slow and deliberate. Whispered through the room.
No. Go away. Danny. Ralphie. Go. Away.
Mark bolted upright in bed, breath ragged, only to see Ben sitting calmly at the desk across the room, sharpening a steak with a lock knife. The rhythmic scraping continued. Ben looked up, one eyebrow raised.
Mark? You okay? Dreaming?
Mark exhaled. Rubbing his face.
Yeah. Thought I heard. Danny. Or Ralphie. At the window.
Ben gave a quiet nod. Not laughing. Not dismissing it.
Get dressed. Let's grab some breakfast. Then we head back to the lot. I want to start with the Marston house.
An hour later, they were back in the jeep. Backpacks in the trunk. The early morning sun struggling to burn through a layer of thin clouds. The world felt too quiet.
Right. First stop. Straker's house.
The drive was uneventful. The road stretched empty before them, not a single other car in sight. As they neared the ruins, the blackened shell of the house came into view. What was left of it leaned against the landscape like a wounded beast. The smell hit them before they even parked. Smoke and scorched timber. But beneath that, something worse, something rancid and coppery. Ben pulled up and killed the engine.
Mark. Grab some holy water.
They got out and approached the wreckage. The stone foundation still stood, charred but intact, a perfect blackened outline of the house that had once towered above it. The air was thick with ash. Every step crunched on cinders and broken glass. Ben circled the perimeter, boots crunching on scorched earth. Until he came to the edge of the cellar entrance. A yawning black mouth cut into the earth. The steps down were shadowed and slick with soot.
What are all these?
Mark asked, pointing. Bottles. Dozens of them lay scattered near the opening and down inside. Thick glass vessels filled with a dark red substance, sealed but slightly charred. Some had cracked open, leaking viscous trails that clung to stone and wood like oil. Ben picked one up, inspecting it under the weak sunlight. He unscrewed the cap, slid a finger inside, and pulled it out slowly. The substance clung to his skin. Wet. Thick. Sticky. He brought it close, sniffed, and his face went hard.
It's blood.
Mark took a step back.
What the hell? Who brings bottles of blood to a burned-out house?
Ben didn't answer at first. He stared down into the cellar, his expression turning cold. Then he said it, and Mark joined in with the same name. The same realization.
Straker.
The silence that followed felt heavy. The kind that wrapped around you like a shroud. They stood there, two men staring into a place where they faced the master, fought the master, and staked the master. The truck rumbled back into the empty lot. Its tires crunching softly over gravel and ash. Morning had begun to stretch lazily into the heat of afternoon, shadows shortening beneath a pale washed-out sky. Ben kept his eyes forward as he drove. The familiar houses of Jerusalem's lot sliding by like ghosts. The Glick house. Ben brought the truck to a stop in front of it. The structure loomed ahead. Quiet and still. Windows dark. He and Mark stepped out in silence. The air was heavy with the scent of old smoke and something fouler, stale and sour. Ben approached the porch, boots creaking on the warped wood. He reached for the door and gave it a gentle push. It opened with a low groan. The smell hit them immediately. Wet. Rot. Mold.
There's someone here,
Ben muttered. Scanning the gloom. They stepped inside. The house was cloaked in shadow. Light from the door cut a thin wedge across the dust-covered floor. Every surface was coated in a gray layer of ash. Furniture sat undisturbed, frozen in a moment from before the fires. Mark clutched the holy water tighter. He could feel it pulsing faintly. A subtle warmth against his palm.
Ben,
he whispered.
we found one again.
Ben gave a slow nod, his face hardening. He knelt and unzipped the blue bag with the yellow banding, pulling out a freshly sharpened wooden stake. It caught the light, gleaming faintly.
Check under the stairs,
he said. Mark moved toward the corner of the room.
There's a door. Barely open.
Ben crouched low and crept toward it. Torch in hand. He nudged the door open further. the beam from the flashlight cutting through the darkness. Inside, curled in the shadows, was a small, pale figure.
Danny Glick.
Ben whispered. He dropped to his knees and pushed the door wider until he could crawl inside. The air was colder here, still and heavy. Danny lay motionless in the gloom. Lips parted. Skin pale as frost.
Mark, shine the torch on his chest. Not his face. His chest.
Mark didn't hesitate. He slid the beam downward, steady, unwavering. It landed square over where Danny's heart should be. Ben took a breath. In one hand, the stake. In the other, the hammer. He positioned the tip of the stake over Danny's chest, paused for just a heartbeat, and then brought the hammer down in a single, forceful motion. The stake drove deep. Danny's eyes snapped open. He screamed, a piercing, soul-rattling shriek that filled the room with pure, unfiltered horror. The air itself seemed to twist around it. Ben didn't flinch.
May you now, rest in peace, Danny Glick.
Danny shuddered violently, mouth open in a final silent scream, and then, slowly, he began to collapse inward, crumbling to ash. The scream faded. Silence returned. Only the sound of their breathing remained. Ben exhaled, lowering the hammer. The stake remained embedded in the pile of ash that had once been a boy. They had won another battle. But the war was far from over.